Hello, friends. This is specifically addressed to non-Jewish people with some thoughts about the current world situation. And these days, when world culture is crumbling, I want to offer some thoughts about survival. Our prophets and rabbis have written extensively about this period before the coming of Mashiach, the Messiah. All the troubles we're experiencing today are predicted in classic Jewish literature. There are two parallels in biblical writings to events in our times. They both offer vital guidance to us in this period. One is the great flood in the days of Noach, and the other is the redemption of the Jewish people from slavery in biblical Egypt. In each case, there was terrible destruction followed by worldwide redemption. The story of Sodom is also relevant, but for now, I'd like to concentrate on the great flood and biblical Egypt. According to the Bible and the Talmud, the flood in the days of Noah came as a result of widespread rebellion of mankind against the laws of God. There were two particularly grievous areas of rebellion which tipped the scales and made worldwide destruction inevitable. And they are moral corruption and widespread theft. I don't think it's necessary to emphasize to thinking people that the world is sinking today under a crushing weight of both moral corruption and theft. Any reflective person will understand how these enormous problems threaten the continued existence of mankind. Moral corruption. God created us as man and woman. The Bible quotes, this is a quote from the Bible, God created man in his image, male and female, he created them. God blessed them. And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply. God created mankind to survive. Any deviation from the way he created us is not life, but death. Theft. This is particularly appropriate in our era, in which it is easy to understand the terrible damage which occurs to our existence when theft becomes rampant. All people are separated into warring parties when men feel they can steal from others. In the time of Noah, theft became so rampant that the world was literally destroyed by those who tore apart the fabric of society. Those who steal from others are destroying their own world and everyone else's world. Furthermore, there's a specific example of worldwide theft in our days. The nations of the world who gather together as the organization called the United Nations are united in one terrible sin, namely the attempt to steal the land of Israel from the children of Israel, who were given that land eternally by God, as stated numerous times in the Bible. The other biblical example of massive destruction is Egypt, which was destroyed because Pharaoh refused to release the Jewish people from slavery so they could serve God. In our days, the world is united in hatred of the Jewish people and the attempt to steal the land of Israel. God inflicted plagues against biblical Egypt, and he's bringing plagues against the entire world in our days. These plagues will not end until the world ceases to persecute the children of Israel and stops trying to steal the land which God gave them. The Jewish people were given 613 commandments, as opposed to the 7 commandments which were given to the children of Noah, meaning all mankind. All mankind needs to understand and follow these 7 laws in order to bring about peace and tranquility in the world. If we're suffering today, then we must try to understand and correct our deviations, because that is the only way to alleviate the suffering. Here are the 7 laws for all mankind. 1, do not murder. 2, do not steal. 3, do not worship false gods. 4, do not be sexually immoral. 5, do not eat a limb removed from a live animal. 6, do not curse God. 7, set up courts and bring offenders to justice. It is appropriate to study these laws. If all mankind would observe them, the world would be a different place. And today there are many groups called B'nai Noach, the children of Noah, who study and follow these laws, non-Jewish groups. It's instructive to contemplate the origin of the spread of corona. It appears that this plague began in connection with eating habits, which are regarded as disgusting, according to biblical standards. There's a clear message in this to all mankind. I'm going to repeat this paragraph. It is instructive to contemplate the origin of the spread of the coronavirus. It appears that this plague began in connection with eating habits, which are regarded as disgusting according to biblical standards. There's a clear message in this to all mankind. Maimonides explains that any human being who faithfully observes the 7 laws of Noah earns a place, a proper place in heaven. When King Solomon built the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, he asked God specifically to heed the prayers of non-Jews who came to the temple. The temple was the universal center of spirituality, which the prophet Isaiah referred to as the house of prayer for all nations. Non-Jews were welcome to bring offerings to the temple as well. The service in the Holy Temple during the week of Sukkot featured a total of 70 bull offerings corresponding to the 70 nations of the world. In fact, the Talmud says that if the Romans would have realized how much they were benefiting from the temple, they would never have destroyed it. I wrote in my book, Worldstorm, that each millennia in history will reverse one day of creation, so that just before Mashiach, the world will return to a state of utter chaos. I believe that we're almost there. The question is, how can we survive the coming days to greet Mashiach and live to see the world redemption, which will occur at that time? Our rabbis describe the time in which we live now as Chevlei Mashiach, the birth pangs of Mashiach. Before a baby is born, the mother goes through the difficult process of labor and delivery. So too, the period before the great redemption is a period of severe labor pains. In Hebrew, the word chevle comes from the word chevel, which means rope. The great rabbi known as the Chafetz Chaim, who died in 1933, said that before Mashiach comes, God is going to stretch a rope which will shake violently across the entire world. Those who want to survive must hang on to the rope with all their strength. What is this rope? The rope is our connection with God, the umbilical cord between us and heaven. If we hold on to God and his laws with all our strength, then we can hope to survive the days before Mashiach and see the renewal of the world. For Jews, holding on to the rope means observing the 613 commandments. For non-Jews, holding on to the rope means observing the 7 commandments. It also means respecting the Jewish people, our connection with God and the land of Israel, and our sanctified mission in this world. God said to Abraham, quote, "I will bless those who bless you, and him who curses you, I will curse." These words were spoken some 3,800 years ago. They've been borne out by history. Every person and nation which has blessed the Jews has been, in turn, been blessed. The United States, up until now, has been good to the Jews, and it received countless blessings. But all those who cursed the Jews have been destroyed in a terrible way. Adolf Hitler, may his name be ground to dust, shot himself in a bunker in Berlin as his quote-unquote 1,000-year Reich collapsed around him. And so it has been with every hater of Israel. Joseph Stalin died on Purim, the same day Haman, who tried to destroy the children of Israel some 2,400 years ago, was hanged along with his 10 sons. The greatest blessing in the world comes to those who bless the Jewish people. The greatest curse comes to those who curse the Jewish people. Sometimes it takes a few years to see the fulfillment, but it always comes. Let me conclude with the amazing statement written by a non-Jew, Mark Twain. And this was published in Harper's Magazine in September 1899 under the title Concerning the Jews. Here's what Mark Twain said. If the statistics are right, the Jews constitute but 1% of the human race. It suggests a nebulous, dim puff of stardust lost in the blaze of the Milky Way. Properly, the Jew ought hardly to be heard of, but he is heard of, has always been heard of. He is as prominent on the planet as any other people. He has made a marvelous fight in this world in all the ages, and he has done it with hands tied behind him. The Egyptian, the Babylonian, and the Persian rose, filled the planet with sound and splendor, then faded to dream stuff and passed away. The Greek and Roman followed and made a vast noise, and they too are gone. Other peoples have sprung up and held their torch high for a time, but it burned out, and they sit in twilight now or have vanished. The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was, exhibiting no decadence, no infirmities of age, no weakening of his parts, no slowing of his energies, no dulling of his alert and aggressive mind. All things are mortal, but the Jew, all other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality? My friends, the road to survival is to fulfill the 7 laws of Noah with realization that they come from God to help and bless the Jewish people and to hold on to that rope.